Somewhere in America right now, someone is late because of orange cones. Maybe it is 7:42 in the morning on I-95 outside Philadelphia. Maybe it is a hot afternoon on the 405 in Los Angeles, where 3 lanes suddenly become 2. Maybe it is a county road in Ohio, where a crew has cut open the asphalt and every pickup in town is taking the long way around. Maybe it is a parent outside Dallas, staring at a flagger holding a stop sign, wondering why this exact road was repaved last year. Everyone knows the feeling. Brake lights, concrete barriers, a blinking arrow board, a speed limit nobody wants to obey, a sign that says road work ahead, and the same thought rising in millions of cars every single day. Why are they always working on the road? It is one of the most common complaints in the country. Roads always seem to be patched, widened, resurfaced, like waste. Like somebody got paid to make your commute worse. But the stranger truth is this: the cones are not the failure. The cones are civilization trying not to fail. Because a road is not a line painted across the land. It is a machine. A very long, very flat, very heavily abused machine. And like every machine, it is always either being maintained or quietly falling apart. There is no third option. A road is never truly finished. A road is only ever between repairs. To understand why, you have to stop seeing the road as scenery and start seeing it as the surface that everything else stands on. The United States is not a country with a few important roads. It is a road civilization. There are roughly 4 million miles. It is one of the largest structures human beings have ever built. Except it is not one structure. It is millions of miles of structure, laid across deserts, swamps, plains, and frozen northern towns where winter is not a season, but an engineering problem. And over all of it, every day, America rolls. Not just commuters, ambulances and school buses, garbage trucks and concrete mixers, 18-wheelers hauling groceries, lumber, gasoline, medicine, frozen chicken, and everything else that makes an ordinary day feel ordinary. The road is not just transportation. It is the floor of the economy. When you click order, a van joins the road. When you buy bananas, a refrigerated truck has already used it. When you fill your tank, a tanker got there first. Behind every quiet household is a constant stream of heavy vehicles. A road looks solid and permanent, but asphalt is not permanent. Concrete is not permanent. The paint, the drainage, the bridges, and the compacted base hidden underneath are not permanent. None of it is. A road is under constant attack by water, heat, cold, sunlight, salt, tree roots, and the simple fact that millions of heavy machines keep rolling over the same surface year after year and then act surprised when it finally gives way. Start with the most ordinary enemy of all: water. Water looks harmless sitting in a puddle, but to a road, water is patient violence. It slips into tiny cracks. It seeps into the base beneath the pavement. It carries away the fine material that holds everything together. And in cold places, water gets in. The temperature drops, the water freezes and expands, and it pushes the pavement upward. Then it thaws. Traffic presses down. The surface flexes. More water gets in. More freezing, more thawing, more weight, until a piece of the road simply breaks loose and a hole opens. A car hits it. A tire blows. A rim bends. And somewhere, a local news station runs the same story it runs every single winter. Pothole season is back. In Chicago, in Detroit, in Boston, in Buffalo, in every place where winter turns pavement into a negotiation between water, temperature, and weight. People talk about potholes as if they are random. They are not. A pothole is a biography. It is the road remembering everything that happened to it, and the crews who patch it know something the public usually does not. A pothole filled in February is often not a cure. It is triage. The cold patch makes the road safe and buys time, but it does not rebuild the failed structure underneath. That is why the same pothole can come back in the same spot, not because the worker was careless, but because the road is sick below the skin. And that points to the first real secret of roads. The surface is only the part you can see. A road is not one thing. It is a stack of layers, each doing a job, all designed to take the weight of traffic at the top and spread it safely into the earth at the bottom. There is the subgrade, sometimes there is old pavement buried under new pavement, and beneath a city street, decades of patches, overlays, and utility cuts stacked on top of each other like rings in a tree. When those hidden layers fail, the surface becomes a confession. Cracks, ruts, depressions, a spiderweb pattern engineers call alligator cracking, standing water that should have drained. The road is literally telling you how it is dying, if you know how to read it. And engineers do read it, with surprising precision. There is an actual measurement for how rough a road is, called the International Roughness Index, and roads are scored by it. Below a certain threshold, a road rides as it is a monitored asset, with a condition, a rating, and a slow downward trend that maintenance is constantly fighting to reverse. But most drivers do not read roads. They feel them. Smooth road, normal. Rough road, anger. Closed road, betrayal. And that is the entire psychology of infrastructure in one line. When a road works, you think about your destination. When it fails, you think about the road. Success is invisibility. Failure is attention. It helps to know what a road is actually made of, because asphalt is not one simple thing. It is engineered. A paving mixture is a careful recipe of crushed stone. The mix that works on a desert interstate is not the mix for a freezing northern street. And the surface designed for heavy truck traffic is not the one for a quiet residential block. Get the recipe or the timing wrong, and the road fails early. Timing especially, because paving is weather sensitive. Asphalt has to be produced, hauled, placed, and rolled while it is still hot enough to bond. Too cold or too wet, and the whole job suffers. This is why, in the north, there is a paving season, a narrow window of warm months in which all the year's repairs must somehow be crammed. Winter breaks the roads. Spring reveals the damage. Summer races to fix it. Fall scrambles to finish before the cold returns. Then winter begins the attack again. That annual loop is a big part of what... But here is the detail almost no one knows, and it is the most quietly remarkable fact about the whole system. Ask people to name the most recycled material in America, and they will guess aluminum cans or plastic or glass. They are all wrong. The answer is asphalt. When a road is resurfaced, that milling machine grinding off the old surface is not making waste. It is harvesting material. The old pavement is crushed and folded back into new pavement, and by some estimates, very nearly all of it gets reused, a recovery rate that dwarfs cans or bottles. The road you drive on today is very often, quite literally, built from the road that was there before it. And as the engineers like to say, if it is done right, you will never know. None of this, and the way America found out, is one of the strangest experiments in the history of infrastructure. In the 1950s, Congress committed to building the interstate highway system, launched by the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1956, the largest public works project the country had ever attempted. But it raised a very practical question that nobody could answer. How much of the cost should be paid by heavy trucks, and how much by ordinary cars? Everyone knew trucks did more damage. No one knew how much more. So they built a road to destroy it on purpose. Near Ottawa, Illinois, on what would become part of Interstate 80, the highway agencies constructed. Then, from 1958 to 1960, they ran trucks over it almost continuously. Day and night, in loops, the Army supplied the heavy vehicles and the drivers, and the pavement was pounded with well over 1 million passes, decades of wear compressed into 2 years. They watched, precisely, how each section failed. That experiment, the AASHO road test, essentially invented modern pavement engineering, and it produced one finding that still governs every road you drive on. The damage a vehicle does to a road does not rise gently with its weight. It rises roughly with the fourth power of the weight on each axle. Double the axle load, and you do not double the damage. You multiply it by about 16. Follow that math to its conclusion, and you get a number that sounds impossible. By this rule, a single fully loaded thousands, which means that the family sedan, for all the guilt drivers feel sitting in a work zone, is barely touching the road at all. The road is mostly being worn out by the trucks that carry the economy, and the economy keeps asking them to carry more. That 2-year experiment in Illinois had a purpose. It was the engineering foundation for the largest construction project in American history. Out of the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1956 came the Interstate Highway System, ultimately tens of thousands of miles of high-speed, limited-access road built over the following decades that rewired the entire country. It is hard to overstate what those highways did. They reshaped trucking, logistics, suburbs, commuting, travel, and even the way people stopped just living in towns and started living off exits, learning the good gas station, the bad merge, the bridge that backs up every Friday. The interstate made the country feel connected. It also made it utterly dependent. Modern trucking, grocery supply, e-commerce, emergency response, and construction all assume the road will simply be there. But every one of those miles came with an invoice that never stops arriving. Because the moment a road is finished, it begins to age. Every new lane has to be plowed, swept, striped, drained, patched, resurfaced, and eventually torn out and rebuilt. Every bridge deck will need attention. Every storm drain will fill. This is the quiet trap hidden inside all that triumphant mid-century building. It is easy to celebrate a new road, and hard construction is the exciting promise. Maintenance is the bill that comes due forever after. And America spent decades making promises in concrete and asphalt across an entire continent. That single fact reorganizes how you see every road in the country. Because America has spent the last few decades putting more weight on its pavement, not less. Online shopping turned a flood of individual deliveries loose onto local streets. Giant distribution centers rose along the highways, pouring trucks onto interchanges that were never designed for them. Suburbs that expect next-day delivery, supermarkets that expect daily restocking, construction sites that expect a steady parade of concrete mixers and flatbeds. All of it lands, ultimately, as weight on a road surface. The street outside a quiet subdivision may not just. Much of the interstate system was built in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, designed for the traffic of a different era. We are running 21st century logistics over mid-20th century pavement, and we expect it to stay smooth. The trucks get heavier, the deliveries get more frequent, the budgets stay tight. And then we are surprised every spring to find the road in pieces. The truth is the opposite of surprising. The road is doing exactly what physics says it must. It is also fighting a different battle in every region. American roads do not live in one climate. They live in dozens, and each one attacks the pavement in its own way. In Arizona, relentless. In Minnesota and the Northeast, the real enemy is the freeze-thaw cycle and the road salt poured on by the ton every winter. Salt that keeps people from crashing and quietly corrodes the infrastructure at the same time. In the mountains of Colorado, a highway is not just pavement. It is snow control, drainage, retaining walls, and constant respect for gravity and rockfall. Florida fights heavy rain, high groundwater, and hurricanes. California adds earthquakes, wildfires, and mudslides to the list. So there is no single American road problem. There are regional road personalities. A road in Phoenix ages nothing like a road in Buffalo. A rural lane in Iowa lives a different life than a freeway in Los Angeles. But everywhere, the underlying story is the same, and so is the complaint. Why are they always working on it? But a huge share of those 4 million miles are rural roads, and they carry a different kind of weight. Not in tonnage, but in consequence. A country road may see only a fraction of the traffic of a city street, but it still faces heavy farm equipment, freeze and thaw, flooding, and washouts, and it is often maintained by a small county crew with a tiny budget and an enormous number of miles to cover. And when a rural road fails, the stakes are not a longer commute, they are isolation. A washed-out road or a failed bridge can cut a family off from work, from school, from the grocery store, from the hospital, from emergency help. A gravel road can turn nearly impassable in mud season. A single snowstorm can stretch one small maintenance crew past its limit across hundreds of lonely miles. And it reveals something uncomfortable that runs through all of infrastructure. The care is not distributed evenly. Some roads get fixed faster, more visibly, and more reliably than others, depending on where the money is, where the people are, and who has the power to demand attention. The road you drive quietly tells you about tax base and population and political weight. The smoothest roads and the most ignored roads are both in their way, telling the truth about who gets remembered. Now look closer at the thing you are stuck behind. The public sees a work zone as a single, frustrating obstacle. A road crew sees a sequence, a long, carefully ordered chain of steps, each one dependent on the last. Traffic control has to be set up first. Signs placed, barrels positioned, lanes temporarily remarked, a safe path carved, a bonding layer is sprayed. Fresh asphalt is laid down hot, and rollers move in behind it to compact it before it cools, while someone watches the temperature, because asphalt that cools too fast will not bond. Then the joints are handled, the striping is restored, the drainage is checked, the manholes are adjusted back to the new surface level, and every step has to happen while the road remains, in some limited way, open. That is the real absurdity of roadwork. You are repairing a machine while millions of people are still using it. Imagine rebuilding your kitchen while someone insists on cooking dinner in it. Now imagine the kitchen is 20 miles long, has trucks moving through it at 65 miles an hour, and everyone driving through is furious at you. That is road. But very often, the crew is waiting, because the work you can see is only part of the job. They are waiting for material from the asphalt plant, waiting for concrete to cure, which takes the time it takes no matter how angry the public is, waiting for an inspection, waiting for a utility line to be moved, one that turned up exactly where the old plans swore nothing existed, waiting for the rain to stop, or for night to fall so a lane can finally be closed without creating gridlock. Infrastructure is not only engineering, it is coordination. And coordination is invisible right up until the moment it fails. There is one more reason a road gets torn. Because the street is the lid on a crowded underground. Water mains, sewers, gas lines, electrical conduits, fiber optic cables, all packed into the same narrow corridor of earth. And every time something down there needs repair or replacement, the road on top becomes the temporary casualty. This is why a street can be beautifully resurfaced one year and cut open the next, to the genuine fury of everyone who lives on it. Didn't they just fix this road? Yes. And then a water main burst beneath it. Or a gas line had to be replaced before it failed. Or a new building needed a connection. The paving schedule and the utility schedule did not match. They rarely do. And the fresh asphalt lost. It has to serve cars, trucks, buses, cyclists, pedestrians, emergency vehicles, delivery vans, parked cars, street trees, signs, signals, storm drains, and the entire buried city underneath. All at once, all in the same strip of space. No wonder it is always being argued over. No wonder it is always being changed. A road is never just a road. And then there are the bridges, where road maintenance stops being merely annoying and becomes a matter of life and death. A pothole is irritating. A bridge failure is catastrophic. A bridge concentrates trust in a way an ordinary road does not. You drive onto it, over water, over a valley, over another highway, without stopping to calculate loads or question the steel. You simply trust the inspections, the design, the bolts, the bearings, the deck, the piers. A bridge is a structure in constant motion, even when it looks perfectly still. It carries pounding traffic, expands and contracts with the seasons, vibrates, takes on road salt and water, and slowly corrodes. Decks wear out, joints fail, bearings age, steel rusts, concrete cracks. Inspectors find things the public never sees. The country has tens of thousands of bridges currently rated only fair, not yet dangerous, but aging steadily toward poor if no one intervenes, and far cheaper to maintain now than to rescue later. Which points to one of the most counterintuitive truths in all of infrastructure. Visible construction is often a sign that the system is still honest with itself. The most dangerous structure is not usually the one wrapped in cones and crawling with crews. It is the one nobody has looked at closely enough yet. And underneath all of it runs a financial story that is just as relentless as the water. A road can fail physically because moisture gets into the base. It can also fail on a spreadsheet because the maintenance was needed and quietly postponed. There is a phrase for this: deferred maintenance. It is a calm, bureaucratic term for a loud and expensive future. It means the work was due and it did not get done. Maybe the money was not there. They charge interest. A crack that could have been sealed cheaply becomes a pothole. The pothole becomes a failed section. The failed section becomes a full reconstruction that costs many times what the original repair would have. The longer you wait, the more you pay. This is the cruel paradox of road maintenance. The cheapest moment to fix a road is before it looks broken. But if you fix a road that still looks fine, the public thinks you wasted their money. So agencies are tempted to wait until everyone agrees the road is terrible, by which point the cheap window has already closed. Do it early, and you look wasteful. Do it late, and you look incompetent. The road itself does not care about any of this. It follows physics. And physics does not negotiate with budgets. You can see the result in the national. Around 39% of the country's major roads are in poor or mediocre condition. And the cost of that does not disappear just because the repair was skipped. It simply transfers to you. Driving on rough, congested roads is estimated to cost the average American driver around $1,400 every year, in damaged tires, worn suspensions, wasted fuel, and lost time. The road that was not repaired sends its bill anyway. Your car becomes the shock absorber for the maintenance the system put off. That is the hidden way deferred infrastructure quietly turns into personal expense. Faced with congested, failing roads, America's instinct has long been to build more road. More lanes, more interchanges, more bypasses. Sometimes that is genuinely necessary. A dangerous bottleneck. When driving becomes easier, people tend to drive more. New capacity makes longer commutes feel acceptable. so people move farther out. Development chases the new road. Within a few years, the widened highway fills right back up and congestion returns. A pattern so reliable that transportation researchers have a name for it. It does not mean every lane is useless. Reality is more complicated than a slogan. But it means construction alone rarely ends the story. A new road changes behavior. The changed behavior creates new demand, and the new demand creates new congestion, which creates pressure for more construction. This is one of the deepest American road stories, and it is almost poetic. We built roads to connect the places that existed. Then we built places that only exist because of roads. The distant suburb, the highway. Each trip asks the road network to absorb one more act of dependence. So part of the answer to why the roads are always under construction is simply this: because we keep building a way of life that needs more road. It is easy to keep this abstract. So make it concrete. It is 1:15 in the morning on a summer night outside Nashville. Traffic is lighter now, but it is not gone. The air still holds the heat of the day. Work lights turn the asphalt a hard silver. A milling machine grinds away the top layer of the road, chewing the old surface into rough black fragments. Dump trucks wait their turn. A paver crawls forward, and workers in reflective vests move around it in a practiced rhythm. A roller follows close behind, pressing the fresh asphalt flat while it is still hot enough to bond. The smell of bitumen hangs over everything. This is when much of the work happens, because closing the lane during the day would create chaos. And here is the part that should change how you see it. This is genuinely one of the most dangerous jobs on the road. And the danger is not mainly the machinery, it is the traffic. Every year, hundreds of people are killed in American highway work zones, and most of them are not the workers. They are drivers and passengers, hitting barriers or each other while distracted, speeding, or merging late. The crew stands in that risk all night so that the surface will be ready by morning. And the reward for doing it well is that no one will ever know. The commuters will roll over the fresh blacktop at 8 a.m. Maybe they will notice the smooth new surface for a day or two. The smoother the ride, the less anyone thinks about the people who are out there in the dark. The world works because someone keeps it working, very often while the rest of the world is asleep. So maybe the next time you hit a work zone, the question worth asking is not why they are always working on the road. The better question is, what would happen if they stopped? If the potholes were never patched? If the bridges were never inspected? If the snow was never plowed and the salt never spread? If the drainage was never cleared and the shoulders never repaired? If the faded lane lines were simply left to fade, and the bent guardrails left bent, and the cracked surfaces left to open until they crumbled? At first, almost nothing dramatic. Then roughness. Then the public, looking at the ruin, would ask why on earth nobody had been maintaining the roads. This is the trap we are caught in, and it is almost funny. We complain bitterly when maintenance appears, and we suffer badly when it disappears. The cone is annoying precisely because it is the visible form of a system that has not given up. Which is why the orange cone deserves not affection, exactly, but a certain respect. Nobody has to enjoy merging into one lane behind a truck full of landscaping equipment, while the GPS quietly adds 18 minutes to the trip. But the cone means someone is still out there, still touching the road, still turning public money, asphalt, steel, diesel, planning, and real physical risk into the ordinary, unremarkable miracle of getting from here to there. Because that is what we tie the road to freedom. The freedom to take the exit, choose the route, drive across the state, move toward a new job, leave whenever we want. And that feeling is real. But the open road is not open by nature. It is cleared, paved, drained, striped, plowed, salted, inspected, funded, and rebuilt, over and over, by people most drivers never see. The interstate did not reshape America because concrete takes care of itself. Behind every road there are surveyors, engineers, pavers, flaggers, equipment operators, inspectors, snowplow drivers, and bridge crews. People who know the road not as a symbol of freedom, but as a patient. They know which curve freezes first, which section floods, which pothole will come back because the base is bad. To you, the road is a surface. To them, it is something old and overused. We want mid-century highways to carry 21st century freight. We want old systems to deliver new convenience. And we want it all to be smooth, fast, cheap, safe, and uninterrupted. Forever. The road cannot give all of that at once, so it asks for maintenance. Sometimes quietly, through a hairline crack, and sometimes all at once, through a pothole that hits hard enough to feel personal. So the road is always under construction, not because it was never finished, but because it is always being consumed, worn down slowly by weather, by weight, by time, by us. And if the work is done well, if the funding arrives and the crews are protected and the repairs hold, the reward is almost invisible. A normal commute, a safe school bus route, a delivery that arrives, an ambulance that gets through. To keep the surface beneath an entire civilization from quietly falling apart beneath its wheels. Somewhere beyond the merge, beyond the delay and the blinking aero board and the smell of fresh asphalt, the hidden machine is doing what it has always done. Breaking down. Being repaired. Breaking down again. Being repaired again. Still carrying us. Still asking for care. Still running. Would you vote to raise taxes to fix a road that still looks fine, knowing it's cheaper now than later? Or not a chance? Leave your thoughts in the comments.